there was times where I just wanted to tell Annika what she needed to do and have her comply and take authority. And that was really hard for me. It was highly counterintuitive to what my intention was. And so it was really challenging. In fact, I remember one couple we worked with where the husband, we were walking through a lot of these things that just was like, okay, it makes sense when you say it out loud, but it's not something that I would normally enter into in my own thought process.
That's why they're easy wrong turns.
Exactly. And so the husband says, this stuff just isn't common sense, is it? And we said, no, it's not. We actually have to take the time to really learn this stuff. Welcome to the Blended Family Breakthrough Podcast. We're your hosts, Mike and Kim.
We believe in a world where blended families can experience a future full of hope, connection, and peace.
That's why we offer tools, strategies, and guidance that move you from a place of confusion and conflict to experiencing a life of confidence and connection.
We're so glad you're joining us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations as we cover everything from romance to parenting, and yes, even dealing with that difficult ex.
So if you're ready to experience breakthrough in your blended family, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Well, hey there. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We're always grateful for your engagement with us here on the show, and we hope that if you find value, that you'll share us with a friend or a relative or a coworker that you know could benefit too. So would you just take a moment to text a link to the show to someone that you know, or share your favorite episode out on social, maybe a few words about what you're learning along the way. I guarantee there's someone in your network that needs blended family support too.
Absolutely. And speaking of support, we've been supporting couples for more than 2 decades now. And in that time, we've recognized a significant pattern that has emerged when it comes to blending a family. We've noticed that the couples who learn the basics and mindfully prepare for their blend in advance before they move everyone under one roof have a great advantage and are positioned to experience the best possible outcomes.
Absolutely. And because we've recognized that pattern, several years ago, we developed a coaching program specifically for couples who are planning to blend their family, or they've recently blended, and we call the program Becoming Blended.
We love coaching nearly or newly blended couples for a few reasons. The first is it's an amazing experience for us to be part of their journey, to help educate, equip, and support couples who have a desire to build a life together and are motivated to engage in the learning process because they really want to do this blending thing well. They're all in, they're invested in understanding the best practices and basics of blending, because their goal is to do the right things and experience the best possible outcomes, not just in their couple relationship, but for their kids as well.
That's right. You know, they're intentional about setting their about to be blended family up for success. And, you know, they're kind of hoping to avoid as many pitfalls as possible. But another reason we love coaching nearly or newly blended couples is because they aren't in a place of crisis, you know, desperately seeking help, like a lot of blended couples that we connect with are. And, you know, we're glad to be able to stand in the gap for those who are in crisis. But what a blessing to get ahead of the game.
Right.
So newly or nearly blended couples are full of hope, and they're ready to take a next step of growth, which really does take a lot of courage, actually.
Exactly. It takes courage because the couple has to face the realities of what it really takes to blend. They know it's not going to be easy to blend a family, and so they've decided to consider the tough realities up front. They focus on gaining understanding and engage in dialogue about things that might be uncomfortable to hear or to talk about, or all so that they can go into their blend with clarity and confidence and a deeper sense of security and connection as a couple.
That's right. They're willing to take off those rose-colored glasses and get real about the real-life challenges that are sure to come in their journey. Many of those couples who call us when they're in crisis, they kind of jumped into their blend without some basic understanding of the realities, and they just simply weren't equipped with the education or the support that they really needed up front before they moved everyone under one roof. And as a result, they've hit some really painful bumps in the road.
Yeah. What we like to tell couples who've been through our Becoming Blended program is that they'll never experience many of the pain points that often come with blending because they've proactively done the work it takes to set their family up for a smoother blend.
Mm-hmm.
And when they are faced with a challenge, they'll have the strategies, tools, and the confidence they need to get through it successfully.
That's right.
Numerous studies show that premarital preparation can reduce the risk of divorce by 30%.
That's amazing.
I know. And another meta-analysis of multi-studies found that overall, couples showed a 79% improvement in all marital outcomes compared to couples who did not receive premarital education.
Wow.
Yeah, this investment makes a huge difference.
Yeah, like who wouldn't want to be 80% better?
Yeah, I know.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
So, honey, we've been talking about our Becoming Blended program, which is for nearly or newly blended couples. And today, we want to share some of the blending basics that we cover in that program and kind of explore the advantage of doing pre-blending work in advance before or even shortly after you kind of walked down the aisle or signed a lease and moved everyone under one roof.
Right.
But even if you've been blending for a while, getting back to basics is crucial. So I really want you to stay with us today and kind of stay in there and think about, hey, what are some of the basic things that maybe we've lost sight of or that we need to really focus on as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
good point.
Now, our word for the day is advance. Pretty good. You like that, right? And we're going to use advance as an acronym as we dive in today. So advance starts with A.
Right.
What's the A about, honey?
Well, the A stands for adequately prepare for changes and challenges.
All right, perfect. Adequately.
Yeah. You know, blended families, you may not realize this, but they are actually born out of grief. There's been a divorce, a separation of some kind, possibly a death, and family members are coming into their blend with grief. And we don't always recognize that. And a lot of times we underestimate the impact that that's going to have on our blend.
Absolutely.
And then on top of that, blended families are born into ambiguity. There's all kinds of unanswered questions that everyone that's coming into your blend is wondering. There's all kinds of things that just are unknown at that stage when couples come together, and that's going to create some challenges.
Absolutely. You know, you get into that whole ambiguous piece, and we kind of know that instinctually, and we're like, yeah, okay, we're kind of wading into uncharted territory here. But we forget the kind of the list of things that maybe kids and adults can be concerned about.
Right.
They might not be quite so clear or sure about daily routines or schedules or how they're going to allocate their time.
Right.
Right. We all have kind of routines and traditions that might be like, well, wait a second, who are we going to lean more into?
Right.
Like
What's
my
look
kids
like
or
now?
your kids, right? Special occasions, vacations. Some kids have to change primary residence. There's physical space in the home. Like
Right.
who has to share a bathroom now? Like that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Social connections, sometimes if we have to switch schools, things like that.
Yeah.
Even visitation schedules or logistics might change. Money habits, spending habits,
Oh, yeah.
roles in the home, parenting expectations, or for some kids, they have to change positions. Like I'm no longer the youngest or I'm no longer the oldest
Right.
or whatever that might be. And all of that brings a whole lot of ambiguity.
Oh, yeah.
And then the icing on the cake is we've got these two single parents who've been doing life their own way
Yep.
in individual space. They've been making their own decisions and helping their kids do things a certain way. And all of a sudden we look at each other and go, wait a second, that's how you do that? And the other one says, yeah, that's how I do that. How do you like that? Right. And what we expect to be a smooth blend and just really moving the family forward together, we all end up in culture clash.
Yep.
So we're on a grief journey. There's a ton of ambiguity and we're right in the middle of culture clash.
Right.
Now, who wouldn't need to adequately prepare for that?
Right.
There's going to be challenges and changes that are going to come along the journey that we need to really lean into and try to understand before we just toss everybody into the mix.
Right. You want to anticipate these challenges and changes.
Absolutely.
And then you can really do a better job navigating through all of that.
For sure. So we've got to make the decision. We're going to adequately prepare for this.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next comes D, and the D stands for discover the difference between coupleness and familyness.
Discover the difference.
Yeah. The unique dynamics of a blended family and marriage is very different than a first family.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons is because the relationships are reordered. And what that means is that in a first family, we meet, we fall in love, we're bonded, we're doing life together, and then eventually we have, some children.
Mm-hmm.
But the primary bond in the home and the bond with the longest history is the couple relationship, and the children come along after that. Well, in a blended family, that's reordered.
That's right.
The parent-child bond is the strongest bond with the longest history. And a lot of times, we've been through tough stuff with our kids. There's a deep connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Then we meet someone new, and this couple relationship kind of gets tacked on to the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's not nearly as strong as the parent-child bond.
Right.
And so relationships are reordered, and it does take time and careful consideration in how we rebalance that. In blended families, the marriage doesn't start out as the foundation of the home. It just doesn't. And that can be really confusing for couples.
Right.
But we've got to learn how to slowly elevate the marriage while continuing to provide stability for the kids.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
It takes some work.
Yeah. And it's interesting when we think about this difference between coupleness and familyness. You've probably been dating for a while, and your couple relationship has begun to develop and emerge over time, right?
Yeah.
And that's your coupleness. But familyness includes the kids. And chances are the kids haven't joined you on every date. No. They haven't been a part of every conversation. You haven't asked for their input on every little piece of the puzzle around your relationship. So the truth is the kids are kind of trailing you. And often the kids are way behind when it comes to this shared experience and trust building and familiarity and kind of being comfortable together.
That's right.
And when you're way ahead and the kids are way behind, that doesn't necessarily make for easy blending, right? And so we have to recognize that and kind of create some rhythms that allow for kids to begin to sort of catch up. This is why one of the reasons Ron Deal says in one of his books that often, especially in the early stage, we're what he calls intimate strangers, right? We're all thrown into the same home and we're kind of strangers. We don't really know each other very well, but because of proximity, there's a lot of intimacy going on. Like, hey, don't leave the toilet seat up, or hey, who used my toothbrush? Or, I'm really on the bathroom thing today. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, but we've got to recognize, intimate strangers that's a tough relationship to experience. And, biological relationships, they tend to be defined by what is. You are my dad, you are my sister. So the distinct biological camps that kind of mingle under one roof when we start blending, those biological camps are defined by facts, by what is. The problem is step relationships are defined more by what is communicated, negotiated, and co-created.
Right.
You don't get to take anything for granted through that blending process. And the reality is for all of us, familyness just can't be forced or rushed.
Right.
It takes ongoing mutual participation at a comfortable pace that each family member can tolerate. Notice it's mutual participation. And I bet somebody listening might have a stepchild who really doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of mutual participation going on there.
That's right.
Right? Okay, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We'll keep going with the conversation.
That's normal.
And we might find some ways to deal with that. Yeah.
And what's important here is for blended couples to understand how to go about investing in both their coupleness and their familyness, and what a healthy rhythm looks like and how they're going to meet the needs of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an either or, it's both and.
Mm-hmm.
And when couples learn how to do this, it helps to build security, connection, and stability in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And often we get this question asked, well, who's the priority, my new partner or my kids? Because it's going to come up over and over and over. Yeah. The goal is to meet the needs of both.
Yeah, both are a priority, right?
Exactly.
Like you just said, it's not an either or, it's a both and we have to learn the rhythm of how to do that. Now, one fun way that we get to help couples kind of start out this rhythm of both familyness and coupleness is actually focused on the coupleness piece. Mm-hmm. And in our Becoming Blended program, we do that with what's called a SYMBIS assessment. It stands for Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts. And through that process, couples get to gain a whole lot of valuable insight, and they get to reduce the ambiguity, at least on the coupleness half of the journey, right? So we talk about everything from what they call marriage momentum and mindset, as well as our own well-being as individuals and kind of the social circle and what expectations we have. We talk about finances and personality dynamics. We talk about love styles. Yes, we talk about sex, even communication, conflict resolution, resiliency, spirituality, like all kinds of different things that we get to talk about. And really, this assessment starts to pave the way for couples to openly process critical aspects of their relationship, which helps to build trust and create deeper intimacy and security. Exactly. Now, I know I sped through those topics really fast. You could go back and rewind and take a bunch of bullet point notes and say, oh, let's talk about all these things, which is great. I would love it if you left this podcast and went and had a meaningful conversation with your partner. But I would encourage you maybe to reach out and talk to us a little bit about what that looks like, because we can help you.
Couples really enjoy going through the assessment and also hearing from us, hearing our insights. And sometimes we have some things that are helpful for them to think about that they wouldn't have come up with on their own.
Totally. Yeah. So we want to adequately prepare and discover some differences. What does the V in advance stand for, honey?
The V stands for value and validate the perspectives of everyone.
All right. Value and validate. That's two V's.
Yeah. Double V.
Advance.
You know, if you've been listening to our podcast for any length of time, you've probably noticed that we really do focus on every single perspective.
Yes, we do try to do that.
And that's because every person in a blended family comes with their own unique perspectives. And it's so important that we understand each child's perspective and the potential struggles that they may have. I mean, it's such an advantage to understand all these different perspectives, knowing what's common and normal and knowing how to help kids process through tough emotions. That can only come when we're willing to value and validate the perspectives of all of the children and put ourselves in their shoes.
Yeah. So, honey, if you could think back like 23 years and you think early in our relationship, I probably was more focused on trying to make you see things from my perspective. Would you say that's true?
I would say that's true. And
wow. You didn't waste much time agreeing with that at all.
It's probably also true that I had my own perspective that I was highly invested in and wanted you to adopt.
Absolutely. And a lot of times when we're early in the journey, we're trying to feel heard, we're trying to be seen, we're trying to actually invest in the relationship and that whole coupleness and familyness thing. And I don't know if anybody listening is anything like me, you might actually think that your perspective is the right perspective. And maybe you're right, but maybe sometimes you're not so right.
Right.
Well, you know what we call this whole thing of, I just need you to see it my way? We call that perspective pushing.
Right.
And especially when we end up in a pain point where we're struggling, it's really easy for couples to slip into perspective pushing and forget to focus on valuing and actually validating each other's perspectives.
Right.
And so I want to challenge you, if you don't get anything else out of this episode today, I want to challenge you to walk away and think to yourself, how can I help my partner feel valued, validated, and I'm going to throw another word in there. It's not a V word, but seen. How can I help them really feel seen? If you can just make that little tweak today, that could change everything and actually change the trajectory of your future. Now, if you've been listening at all for any length of time, you've probably heard us talk about the stranded stranger, trapped teammate dynamic.
Right.
That stranded stranger, that's often the step parent feeling stuck on the outside of this little bio bubble that is over on the other side there, or the trapped teammate where they're just kind of stuck between, well, I want to please my partner and I want to please my kids, but no matter what I choose, I'm going to disappoint someone and I'm just trapped in the middle here.
Yeah, so common.
That's two different perspectives right there. A lot of pain comes with it. And Patricia Papernow says that pain easily trumps empathy.
Right.
And so no wonder we get stuck pushing perspectives over and over and over. But the reality is perspective pushing, it's just a power struggle.
Right.
And it's not going to actually help us resolve anything. So like I said, if you can get out of that and really value and validate the perspective of everyone, you can start to make some forward progress.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not that your perspective isn't also valuable and shouldn't be validated.
Right.
Is that we want to see from every aspect here and not just get locked into our own perspectives. Yeah. And another perspective that we must consider, and you may not want to hear this, but that's the ex-spouses. If there are ex-spouses involved, if you have children that are moving between homes, they are connected to your blend.
Yep.
And the co-parenting relationship you have with them, it can have either a negative or a positive impact on your home.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
It is.
It?
It is. But we want to focus on creating a healthy, cooperative relationship with the other home as much as we possibly can. We want to make allies, not enemies, and create a peaceful environment for the kids as they move between homes. So there's some things that we want to consider up front to help ease all of the relational emotions that get kicked up when a former spouse recouples. I mean, this is a really tough time for an ex when they realize, they're moving on and now there's this new person that's going to be part of my kids' lives and I don't even know them and I don't know if I trust them alone with my kids. And this is a time of high anxiety for an ex-partner. And so we do want to be sensitive to that because the more sensitive and understanding we can be, the better off our co-parenting relationship is going to be in the long run. It's going to be positive for us as well.
Right.
So we want to consider things like how big news is delivered. Most exes do not enjoy hearing big news from their children.
That's true.
And if you think about it, if they're blindsided by something their kids say and they react, they're reacting in front of the kids.
Right.
And that is going to trickle down into your home, especially in the step relationships. So we want to be very strategic in how we deliver important big news to the ex and to the kids and be prepared for how they might react. We need to value and validate their perspectives and understand what they might be experiencing so that we can manage all of these really sensitive relationships well.
So as an example, if we have big news, like let's say an engagement, we just got engaged.
Right.
Well, we want to be thoughtful about how the ex is going to perceive that, what their perspective is. And we want to be able to actually value that maybe by saying, you know what, we're going to time the announcement of this in a way that I can personally make a phone call, have a discussion with them so that it's not my kids who are actually spilling the beans to them and all of a sudden they're reacting. So that's just a little tiny example about what you're talking about, I believe.
Yeah. Be respectful. You would like to know if they were moving on and getting engaged, you would like to know directly from them and not be blindsided with news like that. So just it's common courtesy.
Yes, absolutely. So we're valuing and validating the perspectives of everyone. And I know it's hard to hear, but that includes the ex as well.
It does.
Right? Things will go well for you when you think in those terms. Okay, our word for the day is advance, and we've done ADV. Let's do the second A, which is for avoid easy wrong turns.
Ooh.
Right? We've got to avoid easy wrong turns. Here's a really kind of easy wrong turn a lot of couples think. Well, hey, we want to build a lot of connections, so we've got to spend lots and lots of time together as a family. Well, the problem is when the whole family is together, that's when anxieties go up and they increase.
Tension is highest.
Raises. Yeah, that's right. So what we end up overlooking when we get over-focused on this lots and lots and lots of family time together is the essential need for one-on-one or bio-unit time, right? The place of security for a child is their bio parent.
Right.
And when we have kids showing up to family time from a place of security and stability, that's when family time actually goes better. So we've got to kind of have a great rhythm of this one-on-one or bio unit time where I'm just on my own with this one child who's my bio child or my bio unit, so that we can all enter into family time just in a little bit of a better emotional spot. That's a really simple concept to consider. Not always easy to actually deliver, but it's a simple concept to consider when you're thinking about what some of those easy wrong turns might be.
Yeah. And again, kids are going through so many changes. And one of the things that can often happen is they perceive this new step parent as a threat to their relationship with their bio parent. So we can reduce that threat as well when we spend one-on-one time.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's another easy wrong turn?
Let's see. Well, another one is when couples start out with something like a mantra of, there are no steps in our home. Everyone is treated the same.
Yeah, we're just family.
We're all the same. Yes. And that sounds lovely, but in reality, it is not reality.
Right, that's true.
There are biological relationships in your home and step relationships in your home. You're not all the same. You don't have the same level of relational trust.
Right.
And so often this can create a lot of anxiety, especially for kids, because they know that their step parent isn't their real parent, but yet they're forced into treating them the same or expected. It's very confusing for kids and for the adults as well, because there is no way that your biological child is the same as your stepchild. They just aren't, and it's okay. I like to say that step is not a bad 4-letter word.
That's right. That's
Step is okay. Yeah. But couples who kind of adopt this mantra that we're all the same, there are no steps, what they're overlooking is the reality that trusted, bonded relationships take time. Love and acceptance should not be a requirement.
Right.
What we can require is civility. We cannot require or force love and acceptance. That takes time.
Yeah. And just because I make a choice as a step parent to do my best to love a stepchild doesn't mean that I can expect my child to accept a step sibling at that same level. Relationship requires time, and it's just not going to happen overnight. Yeah. So we don't want to overlook that.
Yeah, everyone has to figure out what their relationship with each other is going to look like.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know, another easy wrong turn that a lot of us make is when a step parent just tries to claim automatic authority with stepkids and really expect that kids should comply. Now, you know, sometimes you'll actually get compliance on the outside, but that can often be really deceptive because kids might be a little more defiant on the inside and we don't even realize it. You know, sometimes when a step parent takes over when kids are young, they kind of expect like, oh, everything's going fine because this child's responding and it seems just great, even though maybe from a relational aspect, they're actually more aloof. But as far as what they're being told or direction and correction, that kind of thing, they're still complying. man, when they hit tweens and teens,
Yep.
that can shift.
We've heard horror stories.
Exactly. When a step-parent is trying to claim authority too quickly, we're actually overlooking the needs of the relationship. We're overlooking the fact that we need to build a foundation of trust and some camaraderie or some connection before we actually have the influence to give direction or correction. And the truth is, we're actually sabotaging our chances of growing that genuine connection and trust when we try to take that authority too soon.
Right.
So we actually need to go with what Patricia Pappernow says, is that is connection, not correction. That's kind of our rule of thumb, especially early on. We'll talk a little bit more about that a bit later.
Yeah, that's an easy wrong turn. You really want to be careful
Absolutely.
with.
Yeah. You know, that was a little bit hard for me early on, even though I had some education before you and I got married. But there was times where I just wanted to tell Annika what she needed to do and have her comply and take authority. And I'm a bit of a taskmaster and I'm a planner and I kind of operate in that mode sometimes. And that was really hard for me. It was highly counterintuitive to what my intention was. And so it was really challenging. In fact, I remember one couple we worked with where the husband, we were walking through a lot of these things that just was like, okay, it makes sense when you say it out loud, but it's not something that I would normally enter into in my own thought process.
That's why they're easy wrong turns.
Exactly. And so the husband says, this stuff just isn't common sense, is it? And we said, no, it's not. We actually have to take the time to really learn this stuff. So that's the second A in our word advance, is avoid some of these easy wrong turns. And there's a lot more than just the handful that we've talked about today.
Yeah, we just scratched the surface there. All right. So we've adequately prepared for changes and challenges. We're going to discover the differences between coupleness and familyness. We're going to value and validate the perspectives of everyone. We're going to avoid those easy wrong turns. And the next letter in our advance acronym is N, which stands for Navigate Sensitive Conversations.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
It is. Here's an email we received from David and Bianca, one couple who is currently in our Becoming Blended coaching program. They've had about 6 sessions with us so far, and the wife-to-be felt led to reach out and share about their experience with us. She said, "We've been going through Mike and Kim's Becoming Blended coaching program, and it's been such a game changer for us. I'll admit I was pretty skeptical about coaching at first. I figured it wouldn't be as effective as counseling, but I couldn't have been more wrong. This program has really opened our eyes to some things from our past that, if left unchecked, could have caused big issues down the road. Mike and Kim are amazing at helping us work through these things with kindness and practical advice. They're super flexible too. They don't just stick to a set curriculum, but instead they make sure we have the space to tackle whatever we're currently dealing with. Mike and Kim are the real deal. They've been the perfect fit for us as we prepare to blend our lives. We're so grateful for everything we've learned and look forward to what they have for us in the future."
Wow. How powerful is that? Thank you so much, David and Bianca. You know, in her previous marriage, Bianca had been a stepmom who found herself in a very difficult situation where she experienced a lot of pain. Now she's navigating a relationship with David, who has 2 kids, and David grew up in a difficult blended family, much like I did personally. Now, this couple's deeply in love and they want to build a life together, but when we first met with them, they were each struggling with some difficult emotions. Things like fear, guilt, insecurity, and guess what? We already talked about this one today. A lot of ambiguity.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And a lot of that's due to the painful residue of past life experiences. And guess what? David and Bianca's story is your story as well.
Yeah.
Right? You've probably felt stuck just like they have, maybe unsure on how to move forward or even if you should move forward together.
Right.
And I want to just say, I am so proud of David and Bianca's intentional work at wading into the difficult conversations.
They're very brave.
Walked into some really powerful dialogue together. And so we've all got to challenge ourselves to do that. We need to figure out what it's going to take to openly share what's genuinely going on inside, because avoiding hard conversations or being passive or people pleasing or just stuffing our emotions, it's actually going to make the blend more complicated down the road, because our past experiences impact our present reality, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
I think this was an area, honey, where we definitely struggled in early on.
Oh, definitely.
And maybe part of it was because we kind of, even though we got some education early on, we also didn't waste any time going from dating to marriage.
Yeah.
And so I think that we've learned over time how to communicate in a way that's open and that can draw each other in. And one of the things I've learned is, particularly when it's difficult, when I'm vulnerable with you in a tough moment, and I do that in a way that's honorable and kind, might be the word for it, it actually opens up vulnerability in you.
I would agree with that.
Now, there's been other times where we can use the word vulnerable, but maybe I would pair it with unkind. And while I was being honest and open, it wasn't very inviting, and that just kind of shut down your vulnerability as well.
Wasn't received well.
Yeah. So I've said lots of times, if you're a couple who's worked with us, maybe you've heard me say vulnerability invites vulnerability. That's true when we deliver it with kindness and empathy and all of that
And
kind
care.
of thing.
Yeah.
And care. Absolutely. And I've watched David and Bianca really do that with each other. And it's not just them. We've had the privilege of watching lots of couples enter into these really challenging conversations and come out more connected on the other side because they navigated it with care and kindness.
And often there's a sense of relief on the other hand, like,
yeah,
I got that off my chest, and we actually had a productive conversation around this thing that's really been bothering me.
Totally.
But couples who stuff this down and just don't talk about it, often it's a fear that, if I say what I'm really thinking or what's really on my mind, this is not going to go well, or this is going to be a deal breaker, and they just kind of allow their fears and worries to hijack them. Yeah. And sadly, it all comes out later. So it's best to get it up and out early.
Absolutely.
So that you have time to work through it and talk about it and navigate it. It's just that we can't overemphasize how important this is.
Totally.
To talk about these tough things.
Yep. I love how the group over at Vital Smarts, who wrote Crucial Conversations and Crucial Accountability, say, if you don't talk it out, you'll act it out. We have to talk it out. And the truth is, if we're stuffing things, it's going to come out one way or another. So have the courage to really enter into these difficult conversations. Yeah. It's critical that every one of us navigate sensitive conversations as early as possible, because being transparent and vulnerable about those struggles before you blend gives you a huge advantage. You get to build deeper intimacy earlier on. You get to grow empathy for each other. Trust really starts to solidify in your relationship. And then you end up going into your blend with more confidence, a deeper sense of clarity, a stronger security, and a lot of the ambiguity piece in the coupleness part of the journey gets solidified earlier on.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is an advantage. It's also an advantage when couples learn early on how to navigate sensitive conversations about each other's kids.
Ooh, yep.
When they learn how to share their observations, their concerns, and their hopes up front. This is so important.
It's a sensitive conversation to talk about each other's kids.
It really is.
I know. We talked about that just a couple weeks ago.
But what often happens is, I notice something your kid's doing and, I don't know about that. And we think to ourselves, it's not a big deal. That'll all change once we get married. When
I can fix that.
Yeah, I can fix that. Exactly. Or we laugh it off or minimize it. Oh, that's cute. Even though in the back of our minds, we're like, wow, I can't believe they're allowed to do that. These are things we need to talk about prior to moving under one roof.
Absolutely.
One example I could share that really illustrates the importance of this is a couple we coached a while back. And while they were dating, she had noticed that he and his kids had a ritual of eating on TV trays in front of the TV, often TV dinners.
Hey, that sounds great.
They thought so too. They loved it. And she remembers thinking while they were dating, oh, I cannot wait till we're married and I'm going to really get in there and fix home cooked meals and we're going to sit around the table and have a proper family meal. Ooh. No more of this sitting in front of the TV, eating TV dinners on TV trays. That's got to end.
And his kids are going to love it and appreciate it too.
And all of this was in her head. She never actually vocalized it or talked through it.
Yep.
Then they get married and she moves forward and she spends hours and hours making these beautiful home cooked meals, expecting everyone to just love to gather around the table and eat her food. And it was an epic fail. Like the kids are going, what is happening here?
We
Why
just
are
want
you
TV dinners in front of the TV.
Yeah. And now they're mad at her for trying to take away their tradition and what they do with their dad. And she's mad at them because they don't appreciate what she's done and all this cooking.
She was working hard too.
She was. She really wanted to bring value and she thought she was bringing value, but she didn't address this concern. She had a valid concern up front. And she just kind of decided that, once we're together, I'm going to change that. And it really blew up. So that's just an example of, on a tiny little scale, we could go on and on and on with many other examples. But this is an example of why it's so important to navigate sensitive conversations about each other's kids and about your relationship up front. Because when couples understand the realities of where they're both at emotionally and with each other's kids, then they can strategize around how to ease the tension and prepare for their blend in a way that will protect the step relationships.
Absolutely.
The stepmom in the story I just told, there was some damage done there in the step relationship that didn't have to happen.
For sure.
And that's really the goal of a lot of these conversations, is we want to ease into our step relationships in a way that can really open the door for deep and meaningful bonds to grow, not for damage to happen.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep going. We've only got a couple letters left in our word for the day, which is advance. And the C stands for consider unrealistic expectations.
Ooh.
Oh, there's a lot of them, right? It's sort of like those easy wrong turns, but it's a little bit different because expectations are kind of almost a lifeblood for our ability to just be calm and peaceful through all the things that are going to come at us.
Right.
I heard years ago, and I've really held on to this, is that all disappointment comes from unmet expectations. So when we have expectations that are out of line, we typically end up experiencing disappointment. Right. So we want to get a handle on our expectations up front. Let's use a few as an example. Like, here's one unrealistic expectation that many individuals start this journey with, and that is, family members are just going to love each other right away, and blending is the goal. Blending,
yeah.
Right? Well, if you've heard about the old crock pot strategy that was developed years ago by Ron Deal as an analogy, you know that blending isn't even the goal. The goal is to create a tasty meal, and that tasty meal has to be cooked like in a crock pot.
Yep.
Okay.
Low and slow.
Low and slow. It's low pressure and low heat over a long period of time. And sometimes that's a tough expectation to swallow. It's more realistic is to say, okay, we're not necessarily all just going to fall in love with each other right away.
We're not going to blend like a smoothie.
Exactly. We're creating a feast, not a smoothie.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to take a long period of time. That's a more realistic expectation. The great part is that kind of takes the pressure off. It's like, oh, we don't have to blend in 9 months and have everybody just as blissful as the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, I don't have this pressure to have to somehow figure out how to have a relationship with this stepchild that, doesn't want anything to do with me.
Or it kind of drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There are things you can do, and those are things that you can learn, but feeling pressure never helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What might be another one?
Well, another unrealistic expectation is that concerns I have now will change after we blend.
We just talked about TV dinners.
Yep.
Right?
And yeah, we've talked about these sensitive conversations about each other's kids and about your relationship, but this also includes any challenging dynamics that you notice between your partner and their ex.
Ooh.
And the other home, yeah.
Yeah.
We can have some unrealistic expectations, such as the relationship between my partner and his ex won't impact our home.
That's definitely an unrealistic expectation.
What about this one? Once we blend, my partner will set and enforce better boundaries with their ex.
If only it were true.
Yeah, these are long-standing patterns.
Yeah.
And maybe the boundaries do need to change, but it's going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one. My partner's ex will accept and respect my position.
Wait, that's not true?
I mean, if they do, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's usually an unrealistic expectation. Again, relationships take time. If you're willing to build cordial relationship with your partner's ex and they give them an opportunity to get to know you, then you'll get closer to that acceptance and respect.
Absolutely.
Here's another one. Our home won't be impacted by decisions my partner's ex makes or how they choose to operate their home.
Ugh.
If you've got kids moving back and forth, you will be impacted by what happens in that other home.
Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, every disappointment comes from unmet expectations. So we've got to examine these things. Things like we can merge traditions quickly. Like anybody who's been through their first Christmas so far, they know that it doesn't necessarily merge as quickly as we'd like it to,
No.
right? Or our kids are invested in our marriage just as much as we are. I hate to burst the bliss bubble there, but they probably just aren't, right?
No.
Or my relationship with my children won't have to change at all when we get married. That's just an unrealistic expectation.
You might be very surprised.
Absolutely. So here's the thing. It's critical for every couple to consider the unrealistic expectations that might be bouncing around in their heads so that we don't have to experience that disappointment.
Yeah, and realistic expectations aren't so bad.
No,
honestly.
they're great, actually.
Yeah. When you know what to expect, you're ready, you're prepared, you're not blindsided or surprised.
That's right.
All right, so we want to adequately prepare for changes and challenges, discover the difference between coupleness and familyness, value and validate the perspectives of everyone, avoid easy wrong turns, navigate sensitive conversations, and consider unrealistic expectations. And finally, the E is for explore and expand your parenting perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
Again, a double
it's
E.
critical.
Yep. The sooner you begin building your parenting partnership, the better. There's a huge advantage to getting aligned around the values, character traits, and life skills you both want to instill in your future home. A lot of times people complain to us, but we have such different parenting styles. having different parenting styles isn't necessarily the issue around most parenting issues.
Right.
The biggest problems arise when couples aren't united around their parenting goals. This can lead to double standards in the home, unresolved issues, resentment, favoritism, conflict, and disconnection for everyone in your home.
Yeah. I love that thought, because even if we have like the exact same parenting style, but we have different parenting goals, then we're just not headed in the same direction at all.
Exactly.
So often what we find is it's not the parenting style that's the major problem.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we're not aligned in the direction that we're heading and that we're trying to lead all of the kids.
Yeah, we still have different parenting styles,
Absolutely.
honey.
Totally. I am just the sweetest, most calm, loving parent. Everybody wants to be around me. It's yeah. What was that face for?
Unrealistic expectations.
Oh, yeah. That's right. No, seriously, we have got to get aligned around our parenting, because understanding how to appropriately position parental authority and then avoiding that easy wrong turn for a step parent who tries to claim that authority that we talked about earlier before building a trusted relationship with stepkids isn't going to get us where we need to go. So I'm not the easiest parent. Like, ask any of my kids or Annika, my stepchild, that I can be really challenging as a parent. And when I'm trying to claim authority, or early on when I tried to claim authority with Annika too soon, it definitely set us on a different trajectory. And then guess what? It actually created a different direction for me and for you, honey.
Yeah.
We started going in opposite directions because I wanted to perspective push. Talked about that earlier. And I wanted my way to be the way we were going to go.
And that sent me into protection mode and defensive mode.
Totally.
And so now we're not even close to being aligned at that point.
Yeah. So we didn't really have a parenting partnership at that point. We were just kind of camped out in our own corners.
Right.
Right. We had to figure out how we were going to get aligned in our goals and begin moving in the same direction. And part of that was me taking Patricia Pappernow's advice on focusing on connection, not correction, with Annika. But then when our two mutual kids came along, we really had to look and go, oh, like, we're going different directions here. Yeah. And it wasn't just about Mike slowing down on the step parenting thing. It was about us creating a truly aligned parenting partnership. Right. Now, that didn't happen overnight. It took a little while for us to get there. But that's one of the things I love about the Becoming Blended program as well, is we typically kind of end, or the last few sessions are focused on aligning couples in a parenting partnership where they can agree on the character traits, the life skills, and the values that they want to launch kids into adulthood with. Right.
Exactly.
And I don't know if you're listening right now, I don't know what your age range of your kids are, but keep this in mind. The youngest kid in your home every day is getting closer to launching into adulthood every single day. And we often don't think about it that way. But when we begin to align our parenting and we become partners in parenting, we actually start to move our kids toward the future that we really want for them. And so don't get too hung up on the parenting style. Well, he just does that, or she's this way all the time. He's permissive. She's, too tough, whatever it is. No. Let's focus on what the goal is, and then let's begin to work as partners to get there.
Yeah, it's amazing how much common ground couples actually have when they start talking about this.
For sure.
When we walk them through the process. But it reminds me of another easy wrong turn, and that's coming into your blend and noticing, oh, wait a minute. I don't like how your kids do that. Oh, wait a minute. We need a rule around that. Hey, we need, and we come up with 101 rules and do's and don'ts for our home. And it's overwhelming and confusing, and the kids are confused and the adults can't keep up with it all. Whereas what we found is that it's simpler and even more effective when we focus on values versus rules.
That's right.
And focus on character building instead of compliance. So those are things that we love to help couples with.
Absolutely.
Yes. You know, everything we've discussed today are blending basics that we strongly advise couples to explore in advance.
Advance. There's our word for the day.
Before or shortly after moving everyone under one roof. Adequately prepare for changes and challenges. They're coming.
Discover the difference between coupleness and familyness.
Yes. Value and validate the perspectives of everyone.
Avoid those easy wrong turns.
Navigate sensitive conversations.
Consider unrealistic expectations.
And explore and expand your parenting perspectives. Couples with the courage to learn, onboard best practices and strategies, openly ask questions, and are willing to engage in real conversations are actually setting their blended family and their relationship up for success.
That's right. But blended couples that wing it without this kind of intentional preparation are the ones we hear from down the road when they've hit that crisis point and things seem to be falling apart. Blended dynamics are complex and tricky. That's just the way it is. And winging it isn't wise and usually leads to regret and pain. I love what another couple said about the advantage of learning the basics before blending. They said, when we found Mike and Kim through the podcast, as we were in the very beginning stages of deepening our relationship and making initial plans to blend in our family, we worked with them for about 6 months leading up to our wedding and found the process to be invaluable. They provided relevant, actionable tools around key things like communicating thoughtfully about the step-family relationships, how to prepare our kids by aligning things in our separate homes leading up to combining households, helping us anticipate potential challenges, and providing language for those dynamics, and how to proactively protect and prioritize our marriage in the midst of all the competing demands of blending families with a total of 6 very busy tweens and teens. We could not be more thankful for the wisdom, compassion, and hopefulness that Mike and Kim share with us and so many other blended families on similar journeys. It's not easy, but it can work and can be a truly beautiful experience if you are intentional about blending well. And Mike and Kim are amazing guides.
Wow.
Now, to help you with all this, we're going to put a link in the show notes where you can go and sign up for a free, simple, single email. Just head over there and we're going to send you a curated list so that you can go on a deeper dive and keep learning and gain understanding of a whole bunch of podcast episodes that are going to get right to the heart of the individual topics that we covered today. So all you have to do is head over to the show notes, click the link, sign up for that simple email, and we'll give you a full list of all of those episodes that could be most helpful.
Yeah, because we encourage you, keep learning and gain understanding. That's one of the most impactful things you can do. However, we also know that information doesn't always lead to transformation.
That's right.
Implementing healthy strategies as a couple can be challenging. We know, we've been there. And so we strongly also encourage you to find someone to do this journey with.
That's right.
Maybe you'll consider reaching out to us and finding out more about our Becoming Blended program. Or maybe you'll find another coach or counselor to help you in this journey of preparation.
That's right.
But again, make sure that they have experience with blended family dynamics. That's so important.
You know, we've heard it said that difficult roads can lead to beautiful destinations, but we recommend that you don't travel this road alone. And like I said at the beginning, maybe you've been blending for a while and it's time to get back to basics. One of the ways that you can do that without going it alone is checking out our Blending Together community, where we have about 25 couples in there right now who are trying to do this blending journey together, because we start to realize, even though we all have different stories, we experience a lot of similar dynamics. So we'll put a link in the show notes also to the Blending Together community for you to check out. Or if you just don't know where the heck to start, just sign up for a free coaching call and we'd be happy to help get you plugged in. All right. Well, we're going to make this episode a wrap.
Until next time.
Does it ever feel like people just don't get how tough it is to blend a family? What if you could experience a community that's all about healthy support, guidance, and practical strategies that help you thrive in your blended family? Well, now you can. Blending Together is a supportive community for blended family couples just like you.
We've educated and supported hundreds of couples navigating the unique challenges of blended family life. Now we're inviting you to join our community and experience the transformation that awaits you. Blending Together is not just another community. It's a place where you'll find practical, real-life strategies for building unity as a couple,
Creating more connection as a family,
experiencing partnership in parenting,
and even dealing with that difficult ex.
Blending Together is a safe, growth-focused space where you'll get to connect with us and maybe more importantly, with other blended family couples who truly understand what you're going through. Along the way, you'll discover practical tools, guidance, and hope that empower you to find a future full of confidence and connection.
When you join Blending Together, you'll gain access to a variety of resources like our private Facebook group and online learning platform, monthly coaching meetings, monthly Q&As, and you'll even get to vote on the content for our monthly workshops.
Blending a family can often leave couples feeling alone or isolated, and quality support can sometimes be expensive and hard to find. That's why we're offering you access to all of this at a super low monthly rate, because every blended family deserves the opportunity to thrive regardless of their budget.
So scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes and click the link to join us in the Blending Together community and meet other couples just like you in our upcoming community meeting. Plus, when you join before the end of the month, you'll gain access to our brand new bonus mini course that will help you make quick headway. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. We can't wait to meet you inside Blending Together. Just click the link all the way at the bottom of the show notes to get started.
We'll see you there.